Pete and Janelle here. We're currently on an overland journey from the UK home
to New Zealand.
Home to New Zealand. And we've been on the road 8 months and things have been going incredibly well until we hit Iran.
Yeah. Wow.
And I'll tell you what, the people in Iran were unbelievable, just so kind and so friendly. But we allegedly drove into a forbidden zone.
Yeah, and that was at the end of our part in Iran. We were actually heading towards the Iraqi border, and had chosen a border to go through, which we didn't know was in the forbidden zone.
Correct. So anyway, an army patrol came out and seconded us and took us into the forbidden zone. And we were held incommunicado for 50 hours. We asked to speak to the New Zealand Embassy. We asked if we could make phone calls, but they took all our personal belongings away. I've got to say, it's probably one of the most frightening situations I've been in. To start with, it was real fun. It really was. It was like an adventure, but things started to get serious. And then they said to me that there were going to be some people come that I wasn't allowed to see, and they were going to blindfold me. Well, they did. And I was blindfolded for about 5 hours, and it was seriously scary, I must admit.
It was really scary, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They don't muck around.
No, they didn't. They just kept on questioning us, interrogating us. Now, it's interesting that prior to leaving on the trip, we actually had role-played scenarios of what might happen to us.
Thank goodness we did.
Yeah, because we're in a scenario mode. But even so, being held there. Anyway, all of a sudden I was blindfolded, and the door crashed open, and these people came in. And they were even more aggressive than what the army guys were, so I'm picking they were secret police. We were 3 days here in this situation, and at night, after quite a period of time, they then bundled us into the car and said they're going to take us to Shish, which is a small town. They're going to let us go free. We thought, oh, thank goodness for that.
Yeah.
On the way to Shish, it's pitch black, in the middle of the night, in the middle of nowhere. Now, we had 2 cars in the front who were escorting us and 1 behind. All of a sudden, they stopped in the middle of nowhere, and we started to crap ourselves. They surrounded the car and told us we had a signal device that was emitting from the car. I said to them, no you don't, because there's no antennas on your car. Now, whether that antagonized them or not, I don't know. But all of a sudden they started to talk amongst themselves. Then away we went, and we got to Shish. We thought, great, they're going to let us go.
But they didn't.
We drove through, and 2 plane cars then met us. The police guys I was blindfolded by this stage. I had my blindfold off, so I could drive. So I meant to mention that before. We then got to the other side, and these plainclothes guys said, you've got to follow them. We said, who are they? Where are we going? What are you doing with us? They wouldn't answer us. I asked if I could speak to the New Zealand Embassy, and they just totally refused to let us. Anyway, we then started to drive, another 2 hours?
Yeah, it was quite a long time. And they took us, and it was a town, I don't know what the name was, but they took us down some alleys, and then they stopped outside a house.
Now, the thing is, in the car, they'd taken all our personal items, but they didn't have a personal locator beacon, which I got from my search and rescue days back in New Zealand 30 years ago. We had this. I said to Janelle, okay, this is serious enough, we've got to pop this because we've got to get a message to the outside world. They then took us to this interrogation centre. It was a police station maybe. I backed the car in as opposed to driving in, so that the personal locator beacon would have the biggest possible opportunity to hit a satellite in Iran. We didn't know whether this thing was going to work or not. They then took us into the interrogation room, and I was seriously scared at this stage. As a disruptor, we then said we need to go to the bathroom, which we were allowed to do together. And we sat on the bowl, stood in the toilet, and just planned to just give them as little information as possible, but to answer truthfully and honestly. The hearts were going flat out, as they had been. We had our wits, the adrenaline had been going for near on 35 hours by now. They interrogated us, and then interrogated us, and interrogated us. The next day, they asked me, can we search the car again? Now, what choice did I have? I asked if I could talk to the New Zealand Embassy, and they said no way. They then searched the car looking for signals or emissions,
Know what they
whatever it
were
may
looking
be, but they found nothing because there's nothing there.
They had our computer bags, didn't they?
Then they took our computer bags.
Yeah.
They were going to look through all that. We had a record of our travel so far. They photographed every bloody page of the thing. They then took us to a hotel, and we said, who's paying? And they said, you're going to pay. And we said, no way, we're not paying. Anyway, there's an room pass there. Believe it or not, they paid. Again, we were held there. There were plainclothes policemen everywhere. But we thought, we didn't know whether the personal locator beacon had gone off, so we had to try and slip away. And we found
a really nice door actually to go out.
We slipped away, did some anti-surveillance, make sure we weren't being tallied, and we met this young man in the street. We outlined our predicament, and with risk to him, he said, come to my place.
He took us home to his place. It was amazing.
We were allowed to use his phone, so we got a message out to our daughter Louisa, who then notified the authorities in New Zealand, who notified the Iranian embassies.
Yeah.
Anyway, just an hour before New Year, they let us go. Except we couldn't go
until the next morning.
Because the hotel staff were told to keep our passports. So anyway, we got our passports. We told them we're going to leave at 7 in the morning. We left at 5 a.m. in the morning and did a straight shot to the Iraqi border, which we got through. And interestingly enough, about 5 miles in from the Iraqi border, we had to pull to the side of the road because the emotion was just welled up in us that it just cascaded out, and we both cried and cried and cried our eyes out. We've been told we were debriefed by the New Zealand embassy when we got to Riyadh, and they've said under no circumstances are we to enter back into Iran because they'll be waiting for us.
Now that poses a problem for us.
Well, that's the difficulty because, now how the heck do we continue with our journey to New Zealand because we need to go through those countries, Iran, Pakistan, Afghanistan. So now what we have to do is we've got to ship our vehicle across probably to India at this stage, and that's a serious piece of water and expensive. So again, this is where we're probably asking for your help because we're kind of out of funds with what's happened in Iran and just a lack of money. It's an experience. It's not one I actually want to repeat. I'm just so thankful that we'd role played before we got into the situation and we had the personal locator beacon.
Absolutely.
We're now stuck in Riyadh. We've been here a week so far trying to think of ways and means to get out of here so we can continue to get through to New Zealand, and probably the ship across to India is the way possible.
Well, that's pretty much the only way at the moment.
Well, exactly right.
We can't go back because we still have to go through Iran, so we've got to go forward and cross to India, and that's where we need your help. Yeah.
So if you can help us in any way, we would really, really appreciate it. That's our story. 50 hours of hell that I'd never want to go through again.
Yeah.
They say that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Not sure about that because I was pretty fragile. In fact, both of us have been pretty fragile for a few days after because of what we went through. 2 scariest times when they stopped us in the middle of the night and they took us to that interrogation centre. Yeah.